everyone, Aimer back with another Mission Impossible review. Today is January the 1st, New Year's Day. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hope you are continuing to enjoy the holidays with your family and friends. This time I am looking at the revival, Season 1, Episode 8, which is called The Pawn. So this one starts out in Prague, where we see a young couple in a room at what appears to be an otherwise abandoned building. They hear and see police vehicles outside. The young man gets dressed, runs out in a hurry, but is spotted and shot dead by the soldiers. Jim heads out to a beach on horseback and finds his instructions hidden among some rocks. The mission. The young man's father is Grigor Antonov, who is a brilliant nuclear scientist, inclined to defect to the United States, and who will be playing in the upcoming chess championship in Prague. The IMF must get Antonov and his daughter to safety in Western Europe. We get a decent apartment scene which doesn't tell us too much. We see that the IMF's main obstacle is the woman we saw ordering the shooting of Antonov's son, and who is assigned to watch him closely in Prague, Major Natalia Zorbaskaya. Zorbaskaya knows that Antonov is inclined to defect, and her freedom from heading to Siberia, either to a gulag or to some unimportant duty which will basically kill her career, depends on making sure that doesn't happen. We see that Max has some ability to perform magic tricks and get a hint that that will be important. Off we head to Prague, where Nicholas and Grant pose as reporters at the train station to get close to Antonov and Zorbaskaya, with Grant snapping a picture of her. Max comes in as Magician Sandu, with Casey as his lovely assistant handing out flyers, and Jim quietly gets off the train further away, adopting a Texas accent and chatting up Zorbaskaya as wealthy promoter Ferguson Mosley about whether she thinks that there magician's any good, and mulling about whether he could get Antonov to the States to play chess there, riling her up a little bit. Max meets with magician Joseph Rultka, who agrees to help him learn some illusionary tricks, including something called the floating phantom. While Antonov has a press conference at the hotel, with Grant recording his gestures and mannerisms, his rival Bakunin shows up, and they argue for a while until Zorbaskaya breaks it up. Grant makes what appears to be a passport picture for Zorbaskaya as Nicholas studies the video, and they prepare a mask of Antonov for when Nick is ready. At a reception before the first match, Jim uses his regular voice to chat up Antonov about travel arrangements, but then quickly switches to Mosley as Zorbaskaya approaches and breaks that up. Jim plays innocent, of course, saying he was just sounding Antonov out about having a match against the U.S. champion, and treats Zorbaskaya like she's his agent or his manager. And she warns him about stepping out of line with Antonov, but he just plays it off like, oh, of course she's just trying to negotiate a better deal for her client. Major Zorbaskaya doesn't seem fooled in the least that Jim is actually as dumb as he's playing. The chess match ends in a stalemate draw, frustrating the rattled Bakunin that he can't seem to get the best of the older man. Antonov doesn't want to attend the public dinner that evening after the unpleasant scene, but Major Zorbaskaya says he doesn't have a choice. At the dinner, local commissar Rudensky shows up, who turns out to be Antonov's old buddy from university, greeting him warmly but basically ignoring the Major. Grant gets into the coat room, messing with the Major's coat and planting some documents in it. He manages to barely avoid Rudensky's assistant going into the room for his vodka and smokes, and Max invites Antonov to the stage for the floating phantom trick, despite Bakunin volunteering first and Major Zorbaskaya objecting to it, as Rudensky shushes her and pushes his friend to go ahead and do it. Major Zorbaskaya watches nervously as Max performs the trick, lifting Antonov into the air and making him disappear. Zorbaskaya immediately goes up to the stage, demanding to know where he is, pointing a gun at Max. Antonov ends up under the stage with the IMF, who takes the opportunity to have Nicholas take his place. Antonov reappears, earning Max a standing ovation for the trick, and Zorbaskaya a mocking laugh from the crowd, not to mention a very disapproving look from the commissar. The IMF takes Antonov to their hotel room, while Jim gets Casey to go retrieve Antonov's daughter Sasha from the station. Jim watches Nicholas as Antonov talking to the increasingly tipsy Rudensky, who asks him about the name of a special girl he met in a coffee shop, with Nicholas replying, oh, there were so many. Rudensky finds that odd, but Nicholas is able to work his way through it, saying there were so many coffee shops, not girls. Casey arrives at the station but finds that Sasha's train is delayed for 12 hours. Antonov refuses to leave without her, given what happened to his son. That's a problem because it means that Nicholas will have to play the match in the morning. Grant formulates a plan to use Antonov's ring to send Nicholas messages and moves for the match, which hotel maid Casey delivers to him surreptitiously. The next morning, the players arrive for the next match, and Grant is able to tap into the satellite feed. Sasha arrives and she joins her father and the IMF on the train to Vienna, where they continue to keep tabs on the game and feed Nicholas moves. At the border, Grant cuts the feed at a critical point while the guards come around, giving Nick and Jim some consternation as Antonov's move clock runs out. In desperation, Nicholas makes a random last-second move, surprising Antonov when the feed comes back. It was brilliant. Bakunin concedes the game, and Nicholas returns to Antonov's room, finally able to take off his mask. Jim comes down to the hotel lobby, telling reporters that Antonov is giving interviews, causing them all to rush upstairs. He gives the concierge $100 and a bag that he says belongs to Zorbaskaya, telling him please get it to the train station before she gets there. An officer summons Rudensky to inspect it, finding clothes and U.S. cash. The throng of reporters rushes up to Antonov's room, but of course do not find him there. Major Zorbaskaya breaks up the crowd, pushing everyone out, including Nicholas. She finds Antonov absent, and thanks to a train brochure Nicholas left behind, rushes to the station, as does the commissar. His men search her and find the planted passport sewn into her coat and put her under arrest. The train starts to head off, and Major Zorbaskaya tells him she needs to get on it to find Antonov. But of course, the commissar says she's destined for a different train, somewhere colder. Jim watches as the train heads away, and if looks could kill, Jim Phelps would be a dead man. Nicholas learns from the message ring that the Antonovs have reached Vienna. Mission accomplished. I am going to give this episode a grade of A+ all the way. Starting with the good, let's say excellent, Rowena Wallace as Major Zorbaskaya is amazing. She's one of the best villains ever on the show, and that includes the original. I would put her right up there with some of the real good ones, and I'll talk more about that later. She completely avoids the 3 kisses of death. She is not a schmuck. Again, more on that later. She's not unengaging. Like this woman, she makes you feel, right? I mean, whatever it is that you feel, you hate her, you want to see her taken down, whatever, but she's not boring. And she's not lame. She can't be considered lame because, she's got this one overriding thing, but it is her reality, right? She doesn't want to get sent on that train to Siberia. And I know that a lot of people may think that, well, okay, she's going to get sent to a gulag. Well, that could happen. But what often did happen, according to what I understand, I have a friend who's, Ukrainian/Russian, and he's told me that a lot of the times, if people who were involved in the KGB or the army or whatever, if they failed missions or if they fell out of favor, they would be sent to unimportant roles in Siberia, like, patrolling the Chinese border, or, doing stuff and just, really, really unimportant tasks. And your career would just be absolutely shot with no hope of any kind of redemption. So it is very, very realistic what's happening here. And again, Rowena Wallace just gives it her all. Being in North America, I don't really know much about her other than what I can find on IMDb or in Wikipedia, but she is quite a prolific actress, still with us. And, Australian audiences probably know her much better. Speaking of that, Brian Marshall as Antonov is really good too. He gets an adequate amount of decent scenes. I like the vibe his character gives off. He seems intelligent and in control of himself when he's in his element. When, he's basically portraying Nicholas being Antonov, he's also quite good. So, we've got 2 really crackerjack actors there, and that's really great. Other little things that I like. The whole mission has a very, very kind of old school vibe when Grant and Nicholas are in their hotel room and they're kind of getting ready to do their part of the switcheroo. They're preparing. There's no dialogue there, right? They're not talking to each other and wasting time and wasting their words. They're just doing what they need to do. Nicholas is studying Antonov, studying the voice, studying his past so that he is getting ready for the task at hand. I really, really like that. Also, there's a plot contrivance, obviously, when Antonov's daughter Sasha's train is delayed. That's a logical plot contrivance. It could happen. It makes perfect sense, and it doesn't come out of absolutely nowhere. It forces the IMF to change up their plan and improv it a little bit, and they do it in a perfectly cogent and logical way. Really, really, really like that. Just a couple of nits and notes. Nothing really bad here. There is, in fact, a Lion of Pilsen hotel in the Czech Republic. At the time, it was the country of Czechoslovakia. It happens to be an hour away from Prague, though. This is kind of a minor note. You can look it up on Google Maps. But I did find that interesting. I also mentioned that the unnecessary dialogue is kind of kept minimal here, which is good. But we do have one thing which I found not so great when it came to the revival series. We get what almost feels like an obligatory Jim Phelps one-liner at the end, where he says, check, mate, and game. Get used to it. It is what it is. That is not going to get a whole heck of a lot better. And in many episodes, some of the unnecessary and lame dialogue is going to come back, sadly. A couple of small nits that I want to make, again, about the chess playing. Not a big deal, but I do want to point them out. Antonov is obviously a grandmaster of chess. And I found it difficult to believe that during that moment where the IMF and the Antonovs are at the border, and Grant has to kind of like cover up his tracks, and so they can't watch the chessboard. A grandmaster like Antonov would be able to visualize the chessboard in his mind, even if he had to do it for like a few minutes. At the very least, he should be able to do that. So I would have rather have seen him kind of picturing it in his mind and kind of thinking of the moves that he was going to make. That would have been a lot more sensible to me. It's a bit gratuitous that just that 3 or 4 minutes would cause that level of difficulty for him. Also, it was weird to me that at the end of their first match, where there's a stalemate, as Antonov says, which is a draw, Bakunin just gets righteously indignant at whatever he feels upset about. That Bakunin is, or no, not Bakunin, Antonov is rubbing his cheek or doing this or doing that or whatever, and that just is bizarre to me. A stalemate occurs the way that the chess match was going because of a move that Bakunin made. Bakunin made a move, and he might have been forced into it because it was the best move under the circumstances, but he did it. He caused that stalemate to happen, and yet he's lashing out at Antonov for it. That was really kind of dumb, and there's really no reason for that except, again, for just for plot purposes, just to kind of give the story a little bit of ammunition about the tension between these guys. That part of it was kind of not realistic. In terms of a callback to a previous episode, to me, this one is a lot like one of my favorite episodes. The magic part of it is, of course, very much like the episode The Falcon, where the IMF makes somebody disappear and substitutes him for somebody else. Yes, that specific part of it is just like that. But to me, this one is a lot like The Cardinal. Major Zorbaskaya reminds me a lot of General Zepke, played by Theodore Bikel, back in The Cardinal. Extremely competent. Doesn't take her eye off the ball. She gets fooled, but she got fooled by the best. And the IMF had to bring a really, really, really strong plan and plot and a little bit of gaslighting in order to accomplish the mission. So, as I mentioned before, she totally avoids those 3 kisses of death and is one of the best villains ever on this show. Also, the Cardinal had a small bit where the IMF actually escapes from, the building that they're in by, taking the role of reporters. And Nicholas kind of does that as well towards the end in order to kind of get shooed away by Zorbaskaya. That was pretty neat. So, again, I definitely think that this episode deserves a high grade. I'm going A+. I don't think it makes sense to give any episode in the revival an S, but this is definitely one of the best ones of the revival, and let's see how it shakes out. It might end up being the best, but that remains to be seen, I think. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Again, Happy New Year to all. And please continue to enjoy your holidays while they last. Please like this review video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you get updates when new videos come out, notifications when new videos come out. And please leave your comments about this episode and others. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.